Isaiah Murrieta Golding never stood up again after the gunshot hit him in the back of the head. Police had tried to detain the 16-year-old a few minutes earlier in a shopping center parking lot near Shaw and Fresno.
Walk backwards, backwards, towards my voice. Stop right there, stop right there, stop right there, down on your knees. Down on your knees.
Police body camera footage shows Murrieta running away and an officer following. You can't see the chase end on this video, but you can hear it. Murrieta had run to a daycare where surveillance video shows him jumping a fence and running again. He made it about 8 steps before Officer Ray Villavaso fired the deadly shot. Officers thought the teen might be involved in a homicide the day before, and Villavaso reported Murrieta looked at him and reached for his waistband, so he feared for his life. Villavaso over there described being in fear for his life.
There is no way that police officer was in fear of his life. That's a justification for the shooting, the shooting that he committed here. Frankly, I think the killing that he did in this particular case. There was no reason for him to shoot that gun, none whatsoever. It makes me angry just to even look at this videotape.
But fellow officers seem to approve. New Police Chief Andy Hall declined to comment for this story because of the pending lawsuits, but the city's Office of Independent Review, the OIR, found the shooting within policy. Quote, the reasonableness of force is based on the officer making a split-second decision after observing the suspect reaching for his waistband area several times during the foot pursuit.
But that's just not what the law says. The law says that there has to be an immediate threat of death or serious bodily injury, which clearly there wasn't. This young man was trying to run away. And you can be as critical as you want about how you shouldn't do that, but that doesn't give the police the right to use lethal force.
The OIR did recommend 10 policy changes, including putting body cameras on officers on the street violence team, like the one who shot and the one jumping the fence to chase. Those officers should also have less lethal weapons, according to the OIR. A jury is set to decide next year if the OIR was right to justify the shooting. Corin Hoggard, ABC 30, Action News.
Check in, Department 204 in the Fresno Police Department. If you're inside, make your presence known.
From one officer's perspective, you can see tensions escalating during this gang enforcement operation. Body cameras caught several angles as an officer grabbed a 17-year-old and punched him over and over again.
It's a very disappointing situation. You can see London Wallace crying. You can see him bleeding.
London Wallace had no gang connections and no criminal history.
He's a high school kid. He likes playing basketball. He's a nice, calm, timid person, and you can kind of see that in the video that he doesn't, he's not used to police contact.
But police arrested him for resisting arrest after this January incident. Officer Christopher Martinez wrote in his report he thought Wallace was going to try to run away. He said he punched Wallace 3 times in the face, which let the officer get his back off the second-story balcony railing. An attorney for Wallace says the video tells a very different story, and prosecutors dropped the charges against the teenager, who's now using that video as the foundation of an excessive force lawsuit against the police department. Legal analyst Ralph Torres says police usually have a built-in civil lawsuit defense of fearing for the officer's safety.
But in this case, the kid was patted down. There was nothing there. And I don't see that he did anything that was consistent with an officer basically putting his fist right through his face.
Nolan Kane says it's important for the public to see body camera footage so they can get a full picture, which often benefits police, but not in this case.
In this case, it's not going to be London's word against the officer's word. It's going to be the jury's going to get to see the full footage, and they're going to decide whether or not this is something that's acceptable.
Police Chief Jerry Dyer saw the video for the first time Tuesday.
I can tell you after looking at the video that it is disturbing to see what occurred in the video.
An initial use of force investigation didn't find the officer used excessive force, but Chief Dyer says there's now an internal affairs investigation that could lead to discipline quickly. Corin Hoggard, ABC 30 Action News. Online reviews are the word of mouth of the 21st century. The websites are where people go to find a diamond in the rough, like Chef Paul's in downtown Fresno, or to see what could go wrong with a pizza place that usually scores very well with customers.
If you look at rankings of why consumers decide to transact with businesses, consumer reviews are usually near or at the top of the list because they're so helpful to consumers making decisions.
Yelp alone said it had 73 million unique visitors every month on its app in 2019, plus another 100 million unique visitors on its regular website.
Because of that importance, businesses then are very motivated to shape the reviews to tell the story they want to tell, not what consumers are actually saying.
Eric Goldman directs the High Tech Law Institute at Santa Clara University School of Law. He says businesses often want to game the review system, driving negative reviews offline, usually by threatening consumers with defamation lawsuits if they don't remove negative reviews. In Fresno County, people filed a total of 31 defamation lawsuits from the beginning of 2019 through the end of 2021. 5 of those involved Yelp reviews. 3 were filed by a single business, Kids Care, a daycare with 13 locations in Fresno, Clovis, and Madera. In all 3 cases, Kids Care convinced the parents who complained online to remove their negative reviews, even as the parents insisted they gave truthful opinions about the business. Chanel Cook submitted a statement to the court saying she deleted her review. Quote, "I didn't delete it because it was false, but simply because I want all of this to end. We're taught to stand up to bullying, but when we do, this is the result of it." End quote. For Wade and Annie Freitas, just the possibility of an expensive lawsuit was enough to erase their negative review. They say their child had a bad experience at Kids Care. The criminal defense attorneys left what they felt was an honest review late that night.
The following day, I was contacted by an attorney claiming to represent Kids Care.
The attorney called Wade's personal phone, emailed him at work, and then called his office.
It felt intimidating, threatening, in fact.
As they went back over their comments on Yelp, Wade and Annie noticed another parent mentioned she had edited her review because a lawyer for Kids Care called her and threatened to sue her. They reluctantly took down their comments and noticed negative reviews were scarce since early in 2019.
As a mother, I'd like to be fully informed when looking where to place my toddler in someone else's care, and it feels like parents aren't getting that information because there isn't a complete picture of other parents' experiences on this site.
The woman who had edited her comments removed her entire review after Kids Care sued her in November. She tells me the settlement agreement won't let her say anything more about Kids Care. We tried to ask Kids Care owners about its legal actions, but they didn't respond to emails or questions delivered in person. In lawsuits, they've said the Yelp comments were false and damaging to their reputation. Owner Jim Fisher addressed some negative Yelp reviews on the website, a practice Yelp recommends to businesses. But we couldn't find him responding to negative reviews after 2018. A Yelp spokesperson tells us protecting reviewers who share their opinions is one of the company's core values. They've gone to court to protect some users and, quote, may place questionable legal threats alerts on Yelp business pages when they have evidence that a business may be abusing the legal system to intimidate or silence reviewers, end quote. They put that tag on at least 2 of Kids Care's pages during our Action News investigation. Goldman says you can't really do anything to prevent lawsuits stemming from your online reviews, but you can be smart. Say what you mean, tell the truth, avoid hyperbole even though it's protected speech, and just write your personal observations.
And if they do all of that, the law will be on their side. However, the law still can be weaponized.
When businesses file defamation lawsuits anyway, consumers don't have much incentive to stand behind their words in the face of the hassle and expense. But California has a law protecting people from strategic lawsuits against public participation, or SLAP. It forces the plaintiff in a SLAPP case to pay all legal expenses if a judge decides the lawsuit was designed to stifle truthful speech. A lot of homeowners and renters insurance policies will also cover legal expenses in defamation cases. Corin Hoggard, ABC 30, Action News. As a few patients sat inside her Clovis clinic waiting for medical help, I confronted Yvette Gabriel about giving a lot of them much less than they needed. All she heard was a conspiracy in the accusations against her from 5 current or former employees.
I don't know. I can't believe that this is happening and someone from my office is doing this to me.
I uncovered a search warrant revealing medical assistants at the family wellness centers in Clovis and Fresno told investigators Gabriel would double the number of patients who got injections from each flu vaccine vial. They said she'd do the same with other shots, too, like for birth control, the tetanus vaccine, or the tuberculosis test. But she'd bill the full amount to insurers, including Medi-Cal. Gabriel admitted to me that sometimes she reduced dosages, but claimed she only did it for shots she was administering to herself.
You're telling me you've never reduced the dosages on the vaccines that you're giving to your patients?
Never.
But with the FBI's help, one of her employees recorded her discussing reduced dosages. Investigators say Gabriel told the employee that patients who got full doses of the tuberculosis test would get TB. If they got a full dose of the flu vaccine, they'd get the flu.
That has to be the biggest lie known to man.
Dr. William Ebeling says cutting down on the dosages could completely defeat the purpose of the shots, letting patients get pregnant or seriously sick. For example, researchers design vaccines of very specific sizes to help you create antibodies to fight viruses or bacteria.
So if you're doing half the dose or a fourth of the dose, it's bound not to do as much of a response and be as protective.
Gabriel insists she'd never leave her patients so vulnerable.
We stay until 7 and 8 p.m. working. No clinic would do this. We accept the patient every day as walk-in. No clinic will do this. But we do it because we love our patients.
To this point, the investigation has not led to criminal charges, but the Department of Justice seized billing records in the last couple of weeks. Anthem Blue Cross audited the office last March, and a few months later, the office stopped accepting that insurance. Corin Hoggard, ABC 30, Action News. Rules changed, and a centralized list of disapproved publications was created. So here's the list right here. It's 16 pages of censored publications inside California prisons. It includes a lot of what you might expect, like 200 uncensored sex acts. That's considered pornography, and you just can't have that inside the prisons. What you can have, though, is descriptions of sex and violence. 50 Shades of Grey is okay, so is Game of Thrones. The Game of Thrones graphic novels, though, those aren't okay because those actually include depictions of that sex and violence. There are also a few things you might not expect, like the AAA Road Atlas, Travel with Someone You Trust. There's also this, Windows 8 All-in-One for Dummies, too dangerous for prisons, but I just checked it out here at the Fresno County Library. Thad Robeck sees obstacles and he jumps them. He sees a problem and he rolls with it. So when this American Ninja Warrior contestant came home from the gym to find his 1994 Honda Civic missing from his Southeast Fresno driveway, he had a moment of anger, but it didn't incapacitate him.
You know, I was pretty upset, but I couldn't say I was surprised. It's always been in the back of my mind, you know. It's really commonly stolen car, and the way that it's been modified, it makes it a target for thieves. So
Robeck also races cars, but the Civic was his first car, and it's not really road ready. Smog problems and bad brakes have kept him from even registering the car. And that is why sheriff's deputies spotted the stolen car less than an hour after Robeck reported it gone.
Sure enough, it came back that it had expired registration. So that warranted him to try and pull the vehicle over. The driver decided to go about another block.
But in the middle of the chase, what the suspect didn't know came back to haunt him. Faulty brakes, seized up, and he had nowhere to go. Deputies arrested 19-year-old Michael Chen on auto theft charges and gave the car back to Robeck, complete with a little present.
That battery was a donation from the thief.
Robeck never kept a battery in the car because it was essentially dead. The thief added one to get it moving. Even with new parts, the car is out of commission. Unlike Robeck's ninja career, he's already submitted an application for the show's next season. Maybe a little too soon, according to one of his friends.
He said, I'm sorry this happened, but maybe it would have been great if it happened right before the submission videos were due.
One more obstacle overcome, Robeck is right back on course. In Fresno, Corin Hoggard, ABC 30, Action News.
The families of 2 teenagers killed in a high-profile Fresno homicide suffered a crushing new blow, but one of them is making sure it doesn't happen again.
The strength of a parent's love is hard to measure. When Justin Hesketh and Brandon Moore were gunned down in December 2011, their families placed crosses bearing their names right near the scene of the crime at Polk and Herndon. For them, the crosses embody the teenagers who never get to grow up.
This is something tangible that we can still, in a way, this is Brandon and it is Justin now, because it's what we have. It's what we have left. Every time I drive by here or the cemetery, I have to tell my son that I love him.
And every year, on the anniversary of their deaths, family members release sky lanterns from the same spot.
We love you. And we wish you were still here with us.
A couple of them even landed at Justin's mother's and sister's home several blocks away. But 2 weeks ago, someone broke his cross.
It was that night I started working on the new crosses.
A week later, with his dad already working on a solution, someone knocked over Brandon's. But this weekend, the strength of a parent's love is measured in pounds. The pounds of a hammer to metal. And the pounding of a father's heart. As he reaches down deep and uses all his breath to keep his son as close as possible. With his family and Justin's sister standing watch, Kenny Moore replaced the wooden crosses with metal to make it harder for the vandals to twist the knife on a wound that won't go away.
My heart's still broken. It'll always be broken. And when people do things like this, it just breaks it even a little bit more.
A broken heart, but still the love of a parent, now measured in the strength of steel.